Right now at the Home Depot, shop Spring Black Friday savings and get up to 40% off, plus up to $500 off select appliances from top brands like Samsung. Get a fridge with 0 clearance hinges, so the doors open fully even in tighter spaces in your kitchen. And laundry that saves you time, like an all-in-one washer-dryer that can run a full load in just 68 minutes. Shop Spring Black Friday savings, plus get free delivery on appliance purchases of $998 or more at the Home Depot. Offer valid April 9th through April 29th, U.S. only. See store online for details.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode 162, here on the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans, Donald Wine. I'm back in Atlanta. I've gotten off my plane. I'm out of the airport.
Out of the lounge.
Out of the lounge, exactly. I was in the Delta Lounge. You know, very nice food in there, nice drinks. They treat you well. Donald and I are here today. You heard Donald a moment ago. We're here today because Duke got some excellent, super important, Donald, maybe the most important news of the offseason just a few hours ago. Patrick Ngongba will be back. He is not, I want to repeat, he is not testing the NBA draft waters at all. Duke has announced Patrick Ngongba is coming back next season. How thrilled were you with this, Donald? Did you expect him to test the draft waters? I kind of did.
I think I said on this episode that I wouldn't be shocked either way. I thought he was leaning towards coming back in the end. And I also had mentioned that Duke's in a great position, right? They're in a unique position with some other blue bloods that they can kind of test the waters before actually testing them, right? Like they have the network where they can get some draft analysis, draft grades from these guys, or for these guys, I should say, and they can make an informed decision about what they want to do. And that way it feels more formal than it used to be back in the day when guys would test the waters and you kind of had to wait until late May to figure out if they were actually coming back. But in the case of
Donald, half the teams in the NBA have a former Duke person, you know, in some kind of front office role, whether it be a coach or a scout or a GM or assistant GM. Yeah.
Look, there's 15 in the playoffs right now. That's players and front office staff. So, right. And that's not counting the play-in where we had a few more. And sure, he gets that brotherhood experience of getting that feedback, and I'm sure a lot of it was honest, right? Like that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for someone to butter them up unless someone's like, hey, we're going to guarantee that we take you. If that's the case, if that wasn't the case, then I think he's doing the right thing by coming back. Look, Jason, I said this a little bit a couple episodes ago, but All-American candidate is going to be attached to his name all summer. I think this is a big step for him. He obviously had many ways a breakout year this past season for Duke and was viewed as one of the better centers in the country. Now he needs to take the next step to being the best center in the country. And I think if he has a healthy year, I think he's capable of doing that given the rise that we've seen from him thus far. I mean, he was on almost every consideration for all of these different lists at the end of the season. And we saw how important he was, not just throughout the season, but also when he was out of the lineup, right? Like we unfortunately saw both sides of his importance, but now that he's fully back, it's great to kind of build around him. He's a guy that averaged 10 points per game this year. That can go up. He averaged almost 6 rebounds a game. That can go up. He averaged a block a game. That can go up. He averaged 2 assists a game. Even that can go up. There's as good as he was, we still haven't seen the best Pat yet. And that's why I'm so excited to have him back in Duke for another year.
Yeah, so two things I want to bring up here to address a couple of things that you were just talking about. The first one is with regards to the NBA. I had heard for a while, for a few months now, Pat and his family and his handlers, the people close to him, the people who were advising him, they all knew that had he entered the draft, he was going to have, late first, maybe a team falls in love with him, maybe mid first, but that sort of back into the first round kind of stock. And prior to NIL, that would have been a guy who goes in the draft every year, no question about it, because Patrick Ngongba would have gotten a NBA contract. There's no question about that. Even if he slipped to the second round, he would have been one of those picks early enough in the second round, I believe, that he would have gotten a guaranteed NBA contract, millions of dollars. But obviously, kids can now make millions of dollars in college basketball, and they don't need to, go to the NBA to make that kind of money. But the other side of it is this. If you look, Donald, at guys taken outside of the top 20 in the NBA draft, there, guys who go in the 20s, guys who go in the early 30s, and we were like, oh, they got guaranteed contracts. Those guys quite often really struggle to get a next contract. They are guys who, when their rookie deal is done, sometimes they're out of the league. Sometimes they're, making the NBA minimum, which is good money. Let's be very clear. Mm-hmm. The NBA minimum is up to like 1.8 or so, or close to $2 million a year, and that's even for a young guy. When you've been in the league longer, it goes up every year based on your experience. But they don't necessarily. It's somewhat unusual for guys taken lower in the draft to work their way into being guys who get big second contracts. And I bring this up because of this, and I go back to what I was saying about hearing things about Pat and his family and his handlers. They want Pat to be ready when he goes to the NBA. They want him to be in a position where he's not, a rookie buried on the bench. This happens with big men a lot. The NBA is really tough on the big men. The adjustment to the size, to the length, to the athleticism of other big men in the NBA is a real challenge for guys coming out of college. And you see a lot of big men. Look, Donald, we saw it with Kamen Malawach just this past year. I mean, we've seen Mark Williams, Derek Lively, lottery pick Duke big men who really struggle to get minutes and struggle to figure out what it is works for them and what doesn't, and all that other kind of stuff at the NBA level. And Patrick Ngongba's people don't want that for him. They want him to be prepared. They want him to be ready, not to be in the NBA, but to be successful in the NBA. That is what I heard from people about Patrick Ngongba, that his family said, yeah, we could go get the NBA money right now, but Pat probably isn't ready to be a full-on rotation player in the league yet. And so they are coming back to Duke to continue to work, to continue to get stronger, continue to develop his game so that when he goes to the league, he's ready to be in the league.
And we've said so much about how deep this draft is.
Yeah.
If he's a late first round, maybe early second round pick, you would think that with even as good a year as he had this year, and we expect him to be even better next year, he can fly up the draft boards and be in the lottery, not even just late lottery, but that 5 to 12 range. He can be that kind of player if he sticks around, has a healthy year. And I'm sure, Jason, I think the health is also part of it, right? There's risk reward with that sort of thing.
For
but
sure.
I know that when they were talking about when he had the hand injury and then he had the foot injury, there was a lot of talk about him being a gamer. Like he wanted to get back, he wanted to play, and he wanted to show that he can fight through stuff like that because the NBA is a grind. It's 82 games as opposed to 30 to 40. And you want it to be able, guys, especially big men, being out for extensive period of time. Everybody in the NBA is big. So you don't want to be replaced by another guy who then goes on a heater and then all of a sudden you've lost your spot. That's the, ebb and flow of it. But I think part of the calculus is, hey, let's come back. I know it's risky to come back and you might get injured again, but let's show that I can have a really good year. Let's show that I can be one of the dominant centers in college basketball. That'll help me go up the boards, or go up the draft boards, and that'll in turn earn me a little bit more money on that first contract and then put me in a better position to play for the second contract.
All right, so I said I had two things I wanted to talk about regarding Pat. I talked about the first, which was the NBA draft. I want to talk about Pat's statistics for just a little bit. You mentioned 10.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game. But he did that averaging less than 22 minutes per game last year. Now, part of that is Pat sometimes gets in foul trouble. Part of that is Pat needs to get in better condition so that he can play more. But I think the expectation would have to be, Donald, that Patrick Ngongba is going to be a 30-minute per game player for Duke this next coming season, the upcoming season. Well, if you take just those 10.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, and extrapolate that into a 30-minute per game player, his numbers go to 13.8 points per game and 7.9 rebounds per game, 14 and 8, which would be great. I mean, those are really, really good numbers from a big man. But you have to know, you have to expect that his usage rate at Duke is going to go up without having a guy like Cameron Boozer in the lineup next to him. Not to say that there's anything wrong with being able to have a dude like Cam next to you, but Cam was a very for good reason, Cam was a very ball-dominant kind of guy. We're not going to have anyone like, even if Duke hits on all their portal targets, we're not going to have anybody who's going to dominate the ball the way Cameron Boozer did. And as a result, I think you're going to see Patrick Ngongba getting more touches, getting more chances, and the Duke offense being built around getting Pat more shots. So I would expect, again, if he just goes to 30 minutes per game and has the same output as this past year, he's a 14 and 8 guy. I think you're probably going to see Patrick Ngongba more like a 16, maybe 17 point per game player. And I'm hoping those rebounds can get up close to 9, maybe 10 rebounds per game. Donald, I got a question for you. How many times in his career do you think Patrick Ngongba had double-digit rebounds?
How many?
Yeah. How many double-digit rebound games does he have?
I thought his career high was 9.
His career high is 11 against Lipscomb. Okay. He got 11 rebounds against Lipscomb. That's the only double-digit rebound game he's had in his career. What do you think his career high in points is?
19.
Close, 17. He had 17 against both SMU and Niagara.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who's never done better than 17 and 11. But I'm telling you right now, I'm going to go ahead. I'll project him right now to be like a 17-point per game scorer next year. And like I said, I'm hoping to get right around 9 rebounds per game out of Pat. I really think that this is a kid who has great potential to get a lot better if he can get healthy and really get to work on things in the offseason. And one of the things I want to see him improve upon the most is I want to see that 3-point percentage improve, because I think it's significant that John Shire, allowed Pat to take as many threes as he did last year. He was up over 30 three-pointers on the season, so he was averaging close to 1 3-pointer per game. John let him keep on, he shot 2 3-pointers against UConn in the Elite Eight. I mean, if he was open, if he was not covered, John said, you should be taking that shot. Now, we all know Pat only hit 25.8. He hit less than 26% of those threes. The fact that John kept on letting him shoot, the fact that that was part of what Pat was allowed to do on the floor, that tells me that they think this guy's better than a 25% three-point shooter. If we get Pat up where he's hitting, I'll go low, maybe mid-30s on three-pointers, it just adds a new wrinkle to what Duke is able to do on offense, and I think that could be a really, really big deal for him.
Look, if you think about the 8 threes that he made, 4 of them were like the first play of the game. Right, where they drew up a play coming off a thing, and they would drop a play for him to hit the first 3. And what that does is that just stretches, that just gives the defense something where they have to go, okay, now I got to check this guy 1 through 5. I got to check all of them outside of the paint. And that opens up the paint for what we did best, dominate. And I think that's also going to translate to the next level. I mean, look, how many 3-pointers did we see Man take last year? Not many, but he's taken them at the next level, because that's just part of the NBA game of, if you're open and there's nobody around you, you got to be able to be comfortable in taking those threes. And so I think Pat's going to hopefully stretch beyond what he did this year. I think obviously there's a lot of work to do with regards to his 3-point shot. His free throw shooting can also go up. He's at 66%, which isn't terrible, but he can, if we see him in the 70s, again, just think of, Jason, you talk about the 17 points per game. To do that, he's going to need to be a 70 to 75% free throw shooter. That's just, and if you're going to have the ball usage that he is expecting, you're going to need to be able to get to the line and knock down free throws and make people pay for going at you in the paint. So those are little things that I'm looking at. But I think all in all, it presents so many options for us with not just him being in the middle, but the continuity part of things. His passing is going to be great. He knows where some of these guys are going to be on the floor. Him and Caden Boozer, you know how many times they connected in the past, like last month of the season on different shots, whether it was Caden to Pat or vice versa. So that dynamic is still going to be there. You can have an inside-out game. And I think it just does wonders with, especially in the form of like Cam Williams, right? Cameron Williams coming in and being a freshman, it takes a lot of pressure off of him to have Pat next to him. And I think that's where he can be able to thrive in the role that he has. If he's on the floor with Pat, it doesn't allow him to be the centerpiece. Pat can be the centerpiece and command the attention because this is a guy who's going to be one of the best centers in college basketball next year, hopefully. That is what having Pat on this team will do for just the mojo of everybody around him.
All right, last thing I have on Pat, the advanced analytics, the folks who study the stats, who study lineups, study, how well does a team do when this guy's on the floor versus when he's not on the floor. They love Patrick Ngongba. Evan Miyakawa, friend of the podcast, one of the best advanced, metric, whatever you want to call it, guys out there. He says that Patrick Ngongba this past season was the number 10 player in the country in terms of his impact on the floor. And a lot of that, by the way, was his defense. Pat was, in Evan Miyakawa's rankings, Pat was the number 9, the 9th best defender in all of college basketball. That put him ahead of Malik Brown. Malik Brown, who won some college basketball defensive player of the year awards, was ranked lower than Patrick Ngongba was in the advanced statistical analysis of, how well a team does when a guy's on the floor. Underrated is Patrick Ngongba's defense, I think, in a very, very big way. He's very switchable. He commits few too many fouls. Very switchable. Really good at contesting shots. It's not just a matter of measuring those block shot numbers. His block shot numbers are great, and they will get better. But his just ability to get in the way and cause problems for people is very, very impressive on defense. I think it's something that's overlooked about Pat, and it's one of the reasons I could not be more thrilled with this dude coming back for Duke.
Yeah, I mean, the defense part is both, right? It was great. It was stellar at times. And then there was times where, like you said, the fouling part, he can definitely improve on that because having him on the floor is what makes him the most dangerous. Can't do anything from the bench. So those are things that he can clearly work on. And I think his footwork and being in there, being confident to say, I am the man. And this year, he didn't really have to do that. He played like it at times, but he didn't have to step up and say every game, sorry, folks, you're coming after me, and I'm not going to allow that. Next year, it's going to be on him to come up and say, guys, I'm the guy. I control the paint. This is my house, and I'm looking forward to seeing that from Pat.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, just some really quick notes, really quick observations. What's going on with Duke and the portal, retention time, all that other kind of stuff. We'll have it all for you in just a moment.
Comcast is delivering extraordinary experiences in live sports. Through the incredible broadcast and storytelling from NBC, innovative and personalized viewing features on Xfinity and Peacock, and the country's most reliable Wi-Fi, viewers can enjoy every game-changing play faster and more seamlessly than ever. All on a network built to deliver unforgettable moments as close to live as possible. The ultimate experience for the American sports fan. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/sports.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
All right, we're back from the break here on the DBR podcast, Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason and Donald here for you. It is a big day for Duke. Right now, it's 3:53 p.m. on Monday. Donald, I always have to give the time because you never know when something's going to change on us at the last minute.
And I'm still checking. So
yeah, people are always like, hey, you missed on that news. Yeah, sorry. It just happened. In any event, big day for Duke with the transfer portal. John Blackwell from Wisconsin is visiting right now. He is on campus at this very moment, I believe, meeting with John Shire. Donald Shire.
If he was meeting with me, we'd have another one be planned right now. So
he's meeting with John Shire. They're discussing his role, his fit at Duke. A lot of people have identified the fact that Duke probably wants to get a scoring wing, a three-point specialist. That is very much what John Blackwell would be. There are a lot of positive vibes I'm hearing, Donald. I don't know when something's going to happen, but I think it could happen very, very soon. And that's because the transfer portal closes for new entries tomorrow. Not at this time, but a little more than 24 hours from now, the transfer portal will be closed. And obviously, we are waiting with bated breath and hoping that we don't see any more Duke names enter the transfer portal. But I think that there is some pressure, I would say, on John Blackwell to make his decision known in time for other guys at Duke to potentially make decisions. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. If Duke adds a guy like Blackwell, it could impact some of the guys at Duke who haven't yet made decisions public about what they're going to do, in terms of what their role would be on the team going forward. We've got some wings, I'll just put it that way, who John Blackwell coming in and being a 30-minute per game guy, which he probably would be, is has the potential to impact things. And Duke, I think, wants a decision so that they can tell their other guys exactly what to expect. And in addition to John Blackwell, who's on campus right now, Duke is still clearly, John Shire is looking for a power forward in the transfer portal. He is at least kicking the tires. He is talking to three of literally the top three power forwards in the portal. Mm-hmm. We've talked about Alan Graves. We've talked a little bit about Milan Momcilovic from Iowa State. He's the best. I meant best shooter in college basketball. For sake of comparison, he hit 48.5% from three this past year. It is the highest percentage in one season in the history of college basketball for minimum of like 200 attempts or 100 attempts or whatever it was. Yeah,
he's having him and he's seriously considering the draft, but the fact that his name is being mentioned with us, that is a interesting development.
Yeah, but my bottom line is that these guys are power forwards. These are fours, and John Shire is talking to them, and I think it's very significant. It tells you something about what John Shire is trying to do with this roster. And I just today heard another name, Paulius Morauskas. I'm getting that wrong. Anyway, he was the best player on St. Mary's this past year. A really, really outstanding four. He's not as much of a stretch. He's not a guy who's going to go outside and shoot quite as many threes as Graves or Momcilovic. So a little different in that regard. But all three of these guys are elite, top of the transfer portal kind of fours, and I think it's interesting that Duke is talking to all these guys. I don't know. Look, it's entirely possible that Shire's like, look, I got one bag of cash left, and maybe Blackwell's going to take it, maybe Graves is going to take it, maybe maybe who knows what. It may be that John Shire only has one more bag of cash, but maybe he has more than one. If he has more than one, it appears that he wants a scorer on the wing and a power forward. So I just want folks to be aware that stuff's all going on here as the portal gets ready to close in the next 24 hours.
And John could also be doing this, right? He could be telling these guys, especially Momcilovic, who's testing the draft waters, like, hey, it's just as good as going to the NBA, having an NBA team in college. If you come here, you could be part of a pseudo NBA team in college with who we have coming back, and if he can land all these different pieces. But look, he's going to get one of them. He's going to get at least one of them. I just have that hunch, and maybe it's Blackwell the fact that he's on campus and we haven't heard anything yet is not anything to worry about. It might be good news that they're still talking and that they're still trying to get him to agree to something before he departs Durham tomorrow. But the fact that they have these guys being mentioned, and then there's also like they've been kicking the tires on a bunch of guys, like that Mustafa Thiam from Cincinnati was also a guy they kind of kicked the tires on for a minute because, look, big is in, and the fact that we got Pat back is a huge piece. But we all know John Shire. He wants guys that are tall. He wants guys that are lengthy, that can play 1 to 5 and make it where any team that he faces, we have the size advantage on him. I think that's been clear over the first 4 years. He wants that size advantage. And all these guys that you mentioned, Jason, maybe with the exception of John Blackwell at 6'4", which is still big, all of these guys are meant to provide length. They're also meant to shoot and really stretch a defense out and make it where they cannot really put a damper on any part of the Duke offense. And also it becomes balanced because you have inside game and you have an outside game. So again, a lot to be excited about. This is going to be a huge week. We still have 5 guys that we haven't heard from on the current roster about what their plans are. Sure, we know the answer to at least one of them, but those are probably, you would think some of those announcements are going to come this week. So strap in. It's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say we can wrap things up now, but I guarantee folks you'll be hearing from us probably in the next 24 hours or so as we await, Caleb Foster, Dame Sarr, Isaiah Evans, all kind of decisions from these guys. Sebastian Wilkins, decisions, whether it's to enter the portal, whether it's to enter the draft. What are all these guys going to decide to do? I'm as eager to find out as you are, Donald.
We are not going to do a what if Cam Boozer came back episode this year because
we're not. It's not.
We did that last year, and then then 2 guys declared for the draft that like within 12 hours. So we're not gonna jinx that again. So his will come soon.
Exactly. Until then, until we're with you next, probably in 24 hours when the portal's getting ready to close and we hear more about all these Duke guys' decisions. Until then, he's Donald. I'm Jason. The Blue Devils are once again assembling one of the finest rosters in all of college basketball. No question about that. This is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.